You know, when we think about technology, our minds usually go straight to our screens, right? The apps, the software. But what if I told you the real story, the most important technology of our lifetime, isn't what you see at all, but the invisible magic humming just beneath the surface?
No, seriously, just stop and think for a second. What's the one thing that actually powers your phone, your car, the internet? Pretty much our entire modern world.
And spoiler alert, it's not the code. It's not the slick user interface. I mean, all that stuff is important, of course. But as Chris Miller, one of the experts we're drawing from, says, that's actually the easy part. The truly difficult part, the real technological miracle, is something else entirely.
The real hero of the story is this: the semiconductor, the microchip. This is the bedrock that everything else is built on. All those apps, all that software, it only exists because of the constant, relentless improvement of these little slivers of silicon. Okay, let's get into it.
So, first things first, what exactly is this invisible engine we're talking about?
Okay, so picture this. A microchip is basically a tiny little slice of silicon, right? Like no bigger than your fingernail. But here's the crazy part. Carved onto that surface are billions of microscopic little on-off switches. They're called transistors, and that's it. When a switch is on, that's a 1. When it's off, it's a 0. And that simple binary language is what creates every photo you take, every text you send, our entire digital world.
But, okay, knowing what it is, that's one thing. Understanding how it's made, that is something else entirely. Seriously, this is where things get kind of insane. It's like we're building the impossible every single day.
Let's just talk about the scale here, because this will blow your mind. The main processor in your smartphone, it has somewhere around 10 billion of those transistors packed onto it. 10 billion switches, all firing perfectly in something you can hold in the palm of your hand.
And each one of those transistors is unimaginably small. A cutting-edge one is about 5 nanometers across. I mean, what does that even mean, right? To put it into perspective, that is smaller than a single coronavirus. Let that sink in. We are literally manufacturing objects on a scale that is smaller than biology.
Now, to build something that tiny, your materials have to be, well, perfect. Absolutely perfect. The silicon for these chips actually starts out as plain old sand, but it gets purified to a level of 99.9999999%. That is one of the purest materials on the entire planet. Why? Because a single misplaced atom, just one, can wreck the whole thing.
So you've got your ultra-pure silicon. How in the world do you carve patterns that small onto it? Well, you use what is probably the most complex machine humans have ever built. It's from a Dutch company called ASML, and it costs about $350 million a pop. Get this, inside this machine, a tiny drop of tin is zapped twice by an incredibly powerful laser. This makes the tin explode into a plasma that's 40 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And that light from that insane explosion is what's used to etch the billions of transistors onto the chip.
All this complexity has led to this thing you've probably heard of called Moore's Law. Basically, it's the observation that computing power doubles about every 2 years. To really get how bonkers that is, think about airplanes. If airplanes had improved at the same rate since the 1960s, a flight from New York to London today would take less than a second. It sounds like science fiction, but for microchips, that's been reality for decades.
So we've gone from the impossibly small to this incredible rate of progress. But now we need to zoom out. Because building these things, it's not a one-person or even a one-country job. It is a massive global jigsaw puzzle.
And in this puzzle, there is one piece that is bigger and more important than all the others, especially when we're talking about the really cutting-edge chips, the ones powering our phones and AI. One company, TSMC, based in Taiwan, makes about 90% of them. Let me say that again. 90% of the world's most critical components come from one single company on one single island. But here's the twist. Even TSMC can't do it alone. Nobody can. That chip in your pocket is a truly international product. The design, the blueprints, that's probably from the US. Those crazy laser machines we just talked about, the Netherlands. The super pure silicon wafers and all the specialized chemicals, Japan. And it all comes together in Taiwan to actually get made.
In this whole setup, that was the brilliant idea of TSMC's founder, Morris Chang. His vision was, well, it's kind of like what Gutenberg did for books. See, Gutenberg didn't write any books. He just built the machine to print them for everyone. Morris Chang had the same idea for chips. He said, "We're not going to design them, we're just going to be the best in the world at manufacturing them for anybody who has a design." And that single idea changed everything.
So, you have the world's most important technology, and almost all of it is made in one very specific place. What do you think happens next? Well, inevitably, the chip industry becomes the main battlefield for a new kind of global power struggle.
And the stakes here, they are incredibly high. Chris Miller puts it bluntly. If anything, a natural disaster, a political crisis, anything disrupts chip production in Taiwan, it would be an absolute catastrophe for the world economy. Because literally everyone, from Apple to Ford, depends on a steady supply of chips from that one island. And this incredible vulnerability is right at the heart of what people are calling the US-China chip war. If you boil it down, the US is trying to stay on top, especially with AI, and it's worried about China using these chips for military tech. China, on the other hand, is terrified of having the plug pulled, of being cut off from this essential technology, so it's pouring billions and billions of dollars into building its own chip industry from scratch.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, and really, the ultimate prize in this whole high-stakes game, the AI revolution.
Look, we can argue all day about what AI is going to look like in 5 or 10 years, but there is one thing we know for absolute sure. It is going to require an unbelievable amount of computing power, and that means it's going to need a ton of these advanced semiconductors. The trend line is it's almost a vertical wall. Every new generation of AI model needs exponentially more computing power than the last one did. The hunger for faster, more powerful chips is just insatiable. And let's put some real numbers on this. To train a big AI model like GPT-4, you need tens of thousands of the best chips on the planet, all running 24/7 for months on end. The price tag? Hundreds of millions of dollars. And guess what most of that money is for? Yep, just buying and powering the chips. So, the AI revolution is here. That's not up for debate anymore. But as we've seen, this entire revolution, all of it, is built on a very real physical foundation, a foundation of silicon, made with impossible technology by just a handful of companies in a few very specific spots on the globe. Which leaves us with maybe the single biggest question of our time. Who is going to control that foundation?